Well, I guess we're doing it live, doing it big. Shabbat shalom, people out there. Today, on this great Sabbath, uh, I thought we'd get into the word and read the Torah portion for this week. And the Torah portion for this week is going all the way back to the beginning of the book. Bereshit, or Genesis, in the beginning. So let's go ahead and get into the word, start reading it. And as we go along, I may do some commentary, and any type of commentary that I do, if I come upon a particular passage, is of my own opinion. Of course, you should research and read the word for yourself and interpret it and pray about it for yourself, of course. So everything I say, take with a grain of salt, of course, except the literal written word of the Most High. So let's get into it. And Bereshit, in the beginning. In the beginning, God, Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. The earth was unformed and void. Darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, or functional, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So there was evening, and then there was morning one day. So still in the Jewish culture today, the day ends, it goes from evening to morning. So from evening to evening is actually one day. And that plays a huge part in Messiah, 3 days, 3 nights in the grave, like he said the son of Jonah was. And that plays a huge part in it. Because how can you go from, Friday to Sunday morning? As in the Easter story. That's just my opinion, of course. Messiah being put in the grave on Wednesday before sunset. So Wednesday evening to Thursday evening, one day, Thursday evening to Friday evening, 2 days, and then Friday evening to Saturday evening, which is the end of the Sabbath, being risen as a sacrificial lamb right at the end of the Sabbath day, and not Sunday morning, really. So anyway, whole nother story. So let's continue with that. Make sure we don't lose our spot here. God said, "Let there be a dome in the middle of the water. Let it divide the water from the water." So God made a dome, and it divided the water. It divided the water under the dome from the water above the dome. This is how it was. And God called the dome the sky. So there was evening, and then there was morning, second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear." And that is how it was. God called the dry land earth, or aretz. The gathering together of the water he called the seas. And God saw that it was good. And usually, metaphorically, in some passages, the seas can also mean a gathering of people, a huge flock of people. God said, "Let the earth put forth grass, seed producing plants, and fruit trees, each yielding to its own kind of seed bearing fruit on the earth." And that is how it was. The earth brought forth grass, plants, each yielding its own kind of seed, and trees, each producing its own kind of seed bearing fruit. And God saw that it was good. So then there was evening and there was morning, a third day. So right here shows you each producing after its own kind, like kind. Right. An apple tree produces apples. Peach produces peach. An almond tree, almonds. It's not going to produce anything else. And now you know where I'm going with this. In today's social climate of how we want to say that something can produce something else, instead of its own kind. So, you know where I'm going with that. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. Let them be for the lights in the dome of the sky to give the light to the earth." And that is how it was. God made two great lights, the larger light to rule the day, the smaller light to rule the night, and the stars. And God did put them in the dome in the sky to give light to the earth. So this is where he's talking about the moon, the lesser light, and the sun. But in chapter 1, in verse, we hear that he's like, let there be light. So what is this light? When later on he's talking about creating the two, the lesser light, the moon, and then the greater light, the sun. We'll get into that. So he put them in the dome of the sky to give light to the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So then there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. And God said, let the water swarm with living creatures, and let birds fly above in the earth and the dome of the sky. And God created great sea creatures and every living thing that creeps, so that the water swarmed with all kinds of them. And there was every kind of winged bird, and God saw that was good. And God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the water of the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. So there was evening and morning, a fifth day. And God said, let there bring forth each kind of living creature, each kind of livestock, crawling animal, wild beast. And then this is how it was. God made each kind of wild beast, each kind of livestock, and every kind of animal that crawls along the ground. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make humankind in our image. Of course, if you're a scholar of the Bible, you kind of know who was he talking to. He that was in the beginning, Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. Let us make humankind in our image, in the likeness of ourselves, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the animals, and all over all the earth, and over every crawling creature that crawls on the earth. So in the beginning, we had dominion over everything. Everything was given unto Adam. But because of sin, we lost it and relinquished it over to Hasatan, the adversary. But one day, he will relinquish that authority back to the second Adam, Messiah Yeshua. And he shall rule and reign for 1,000 years. So God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. A lot of people don't like that verse because it's scientific biology. I mean, it's male and female, two genders. That's it. He created them male, female. There isn't non-gender, binary, whatever, 20 different genders. No, there's two. Some of y'all probably hate me for that. It is what it is. I mean, you can see it just in everyday life and nature. Just because you say you're a different gender or some other type of gender doesn't make it real. Doesn't make it true. It makes it true in your head. But according to the word and according to natural law, it doesn't. According to science, it doesn't. Male, female. God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, and every living creature that crawls on the earth. And God said, here, throughout the whole earth, I am giving you as food every seed-bearing plant and every tree with seed-bearing fruit, and to every wild animal, bird in the air, and creature crawling on the earth, in which there is a living soul, I'm giving as food every kind of green plant. And that is how it is. That is how it was. And God saw that everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So there was evening and morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, along with everything in them. On the seventh day. So when does the week begin? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 7, and then it begins again, right? So Sabbath, Saturday. They changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday during the Catholic Church reign. God, when it was, they decreed their own because they couldn't convert the Jewish people over to Catholicism, so they didn't want to have nothing to do with the Jewish people, which Makes no sense because Messiah still is Jewish. He is from the line of Judah. Um, so why would you want to disenfranchise yourself from that? But they wanted to create their own thing, and so they deemed that they had the power to change the Sabbath from there to Sunday, which is Sunday, the worship of the venerable sun, which Constantine set all that stuff up when he pretended to be so-called Christian. Anyway, let us continue. And on the seventh day, God was finished with his work, which he had made, so he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. God blessed the seventh day, separated it as holy, because on that day God rested from all his work in which he had created. Here is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created. On the day when Adonai, or Yehovah, God, made the earth and heaven, there was as yet no wild bush on the earth, and no wild plant had as yet sprung up. For Yehovah, God, had not caused it to rain yet on the earth, and there was no one to cultivate the ground. Rather, a mist went up from the earth, which watered the entire surface of the ground. It's very interesting. No rain, just a mist. Just came up, just like it would be on a dewy day, except not falling from ground. It just came up from the earth, and everything got covered and watered that way. Then Yehovah, Elohim, formed a person from the dust of the ground. So that's where you get Adam, red, from the Adamah, from the ground, the red dirt, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, so that he became a living being. He became a living being. Yehovah, Elohim, planted a garden toward the east in Eden. So Adam was formed from the dirt of Eden, not from the garden, but from Eden itself. Remember, he was put out of the garden, still in Eden, but put out of the garden from eating from the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, sorry. And he was put out so he wouldn't eat from the tree of life and live forever, immortality in the sin, Adam and Hawa, or Eve. Okay, so he put him in the garden, and there he put the person who he had formed, which is Adam. Out of the ground, Yehovah had caused to grow every tree pleasing in appearance and good for food, including the tree of life in the middle of the garden and the tree of knowledge, good and evil, or function and dysfunction, as it is in a Hebraic mindset. Good is something that functions, and we know that whatever God creates that is good is functional. Whatever the enemy creates is dysfunctional. So evil is a dysfunction. There is no dysfunctional service, should I say, in the Most High. I mean, he's not man that he should lie. There's no evil in him. Everything functions perfectly. A river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided into 4 streams. The name of first was called the Pishon. In the winds throughout the land of Hivala, and where there is gold, the gold of that land is good. Aromatic resin and oxenstone are found there also. The name of the second river is the Gishon. It winds throughout the land of Cush. The name of the third river is the Tigris. It is the one that flows toward the east of Ashur. The fourth river is, of course, the Euphrates. Yehovah took the person and put him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to take care of it. Yehovah gave the person this order: you may freely eat of every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You are not to eat from it, because on that day that you eat of it, it will become certain that you will die. Then Yehovah God said, it isn't good that the person should be alone. I will make for him a companion suitable for helping him. So from the ground, Yehovah formed every wild animal and every bird that flies in the air, and he brought them to the person, Adam, to see what he would call him. Whatever the person would call each living creature, that was to be his name. That takes a lot of brain power, man. Can you imagine? Adam sitting there, Adam sitting there, Yehovah bringing these animals. Think about all the animals we have today. I understand this was before the fall, so it's kind of hard to try and figure out the capacity of knowledge that I'm pretty sure they had 100%, function, 100% brain function. Not like us today, only using 10% or whatever. Not, I mean, 100% of the brain function just working, and be able to sit there and just name these animals. Of course, possibly speaking the Hebrew tongue, the ancient Hebrew language, or something similar to what we have in Hebrew today. Surely not English. So I mean, that's just amazing to me that Adam would sit there and just name all these animals. Huge brain power. 1,010 million IQ. Chapter 3. Well, no, let's finish up. So the person gave, or Adam gave, names to all the livestock and the birds in the air, and to every wild animal. But for Adam there was not found a suitable companion for helping him. Then God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam while he was sleeping. He took one of his ribs and closed up the place from which he took the flesh. The rib, which Yehovah had taken from the person, he made a woman person. He made Hawa, or Eve. And he brought her to the man person, or Adam. And Adam said, "At last, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She is to be called woman, because she is taken out of man. This is why a man is to leave his father and his mother and stick with his wife, and they are to be one flesh." And they were both naked, the man and the wife and his wife, and they were not ashamed of their nakedness. Chapter 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animal which Jehovah had created. He said to the woman, "Did God really say?" Of course, here's his craftiness. Did God really say? Maybe you could tweak it, screw it, Did he really say you should not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman answered the serpent, "We may not eat from the fruit of the tree. We may eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God said, you are neither to eat from it nor touch it, or you will die." Here's where she messed up. God told Adam, the Most High told Adam, don't eat from it. Eve told the serpent, "You shall not eat or touch of it." Where do you think she got that from? She wasn't there when the Most High told Adam. So who told her? I guess Adam had to explain to her, "Look, we can eat from everything, but we can't eat from that." Then he added a little extra and told her, "Hey, we can't even touch it." Now, did the Most High say that? No. He just said, "Don't eat from it." He said nothing about touching. Even if you think you're doing good and adding to the words of God, or adding extra where you think it will help, it doesn't. Because what he said, you shall not add, you shall not subtract from the word. You shall not add or take away from it. Adam added to the word of God, thinking that it was doing better, making sure that Eve didn't come close to even touching it. So, then let's get back to it. Let's see. Then the serpent said to the woman, "It is not true that you will surely die, because God knows that on the day that you eat it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil, knowing function from dysfunction." When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it had a pleasing appearance, and that it was the tree was desirable for making one wise, she took some of its fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband, Adam, who was with her. He didn't say anything, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Then they heard the voice of Yehovah walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze. So the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yehovah among the trees in the garden. And Yehovah called out to the man and said, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." And then Yehovah said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree from which I ordered you not to eat?" The man replied, "It was the woman that you gave me. She told me to eat from it. She gave me the fruit from the tree, and I ate." "Yeah, that woman, it was her fault. She gave me the fruit. Yeah, I ate it, but she gave it to me." And Yehovah said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" Then the woman answered, "Well, it was the serpent. The serpent tricked me, so I ate." Passing the blame. Playing the blame game. As soon as their eyes were open, quote unquote, they started passing the blame, playing the blame game. Don't want to be in trouble, just like little kids. "It wasn't me, it was him, he did it." Blah, blah, blah. And then Yehovah said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust as long as you live. And I will put animosity between you and the woman, between your descendant and her descendant. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel." Of course, talking about Yeshua Messiah. Salvation on the cross, bruising the head of Hasatan. To the woman he said, "I will greatly increase your pain in childbirth. You will bring forth children in pain, and your desire shall be toward your husband, but he will rule over you." So you will desire to usurp the authority of your husband, but he will rule over you. And to Adam he said, "Because you listened to what your wife said and ate from the tree." You hear? He said, "Because you listened to your wife and you ate from the tree, which I gave you orders, you are not to eat from this tree. The ground is cursed on your account. You will have to work hard to eat from it as long as you live. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will find and you will eat." Excuse me. "It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat field plants. You will eat bread by the sweat of your forehead till you return to the ground from which you were taken out of. From dust you are, unto dust you shall return." So that's why you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You got to go to work and toil and sweat. Thank you, Adam and Eve. But we know salvation comes in the second Adam to bring us back into the garden and eat from that tree of life. Then the man called his wife Hava, life, because she was the mother of all living beings, mother of all living. Then Yehovah made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. So garments of skin coming from an animal, first sacrificial system set up right there. So I had to sacrifice an animal to get the skin. Then Yehovah said, "See, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now to prevent his putting out of the hand and also taking from the tree of life, eating and then living forever. Therefore Yehovah sent him out of the garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken from, which is in Eden, but not the garden. So he drove the man out, and then he placed at the east of the garden of Eden a cherubim and a flaming sword, which turned in every direction to guard the way to the tree of life." A cherubim, which is one of them big angels, the big messengers with the seraphim, the 6 wings, cherubim. Yeah. Anyway, can you imagine? And that's something I always think about. Where is the Garden of Eden? Can we see it? Is it in another dimension right now? Till we return to it. And is that cherubim still there with the flaming sword turning every which way? Of course, he didn't want him to die. He didn't want him to live forever in their sin without redemption. Chapter 4, then the man had sexual relations with Hava, his wife. She conceived, gave birth to Cain, which means acquisition, and said, "I have acquired a man from Yehovah." In addition, she gave birth birth to his brother Havel or Abel. And Havel kept sheep, while Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to Adonai, Yehovah, from the produce of the soil, and Havel or Abel too brought forth from the firstborn of his sheep, including their fat, the good part. Then Yehovah accepted Abel's and his offering, but he did not accept Cain and his offering. Cain was very angry, and his face fell. And Yehovah said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why are you so downcast? If you are doing good, if you are doing what is good, shouldn't you hold your head up high? And if you are if you don't do good, what is good, sin is crouching at the door. It wants you, but you can rule over it." And Cain had word with his brother Abel. Then one time, when they were in the field, Cain turned on Abel, his brother, and killed him. And Yehovah said to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" And he replied, "I don't know. Am I my brother's guardian? Or, as we all know, my brother's keeper?" He said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed from the ground, which hath opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood at your hands. When you form, the ground will no longer yield its strength to you. Will be a fugitive or a vagabond wandering the earth." Cain said to Yehovah, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. You are banning me today from the land and from your presence. I will be a fugitive wandering the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Yehovah answered him, "Therefore, whoever kills Cain will receive vengeance sevenfold." And Adonai, Yehovah, put a sign on Cain, or a mark, an oath, a sign, a mark, so that anyone who found him would not kill him. So Cain left the presence of Yehovah and lived in the land of Nod, which means wandering, east of Eden. Cain had sexual relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Hanok. Cain built a city, and they named the city after his son Hanok. To Hanok was born Arad, father of Mekulah, Mekuyael, father of Methuselah, or Methusael. Methuselah fathered Lamech. And Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of the first was Adah, while the name of the other was Silah. And Adah gave birth to Yaval. When he was the ancestor of those who lived in tents and the cattle. His brother's name was Yuval, and he was the ancestor of all who played the lyre and the flute. And Silah gave birth to Tuval Cain, who forged all kinds of tools from brass and iron. The sisters of Tuval Cain were Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Silah, "Listen to me, wives of Lamech. Hear what I have to say. I killed a man for wounding me, a young man who injured me. If Cain will avenge sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold." So he killed Cain. Adam again had sexual relations with his wife. She gave birth to a son, and she named him Shet, or be granted. For God has granted me another seed in this place. So in English is Seth, or Shet in Hebrew, in place of Hivel, since Cain had killed him. Two was born also. To Shet was born Enosh. That is when the people begin to call on the name of Yehovah. And some people interpret that as they begin to curse the name of the Most High and not really call upon his name like we would, call upon him for deliverance or in prayer or whatever not. In that interpretation, that would be they begin to despise the name, curse the name, call upon and curse it in that sense, because they wanted to live wickedly. So it goes through the genealogy. Here's the genealogy of Adam. The day that God created man in the likeness of God, he created them male and female. He blessed them, called them Adam. On the day that they were created, after Adam lived 130 years, he fathered a son like himself and named him Shet. And after Shet was born, Adam lived another 800 years and had sons and daughters. In all, Adam had lived 930 years, and then he died. And Shet lived 105 years and fathered Enosh, and Enosh was born After Enosh was born, Shet lived another 107 years and had sons and daughters. And all Shet lived 912 years, and then he died. And Enosh lived 90 years and fathered Kenan. And then Kenan was born Enosh. After Kenan was born, Enosh lived 815 years and had sons and daughters. In all, Enosh lived 905 years. Then he died. And can you imagine living that long? You know, people who live to be 100, it's like all the stuff they've seen in their, century of life. And to take all that in, can you imagine living 8, 9 centuries and how much you would acquire over that time of knowledge, of course? So all this knowledge that was acquired with, Methuselah and Noah, which everything was passed down, of course, to Noah, and then from Noah to his sons after that. And I'm sure there's a lot of knowledge that was lost, quote unquote, or there's knowledge that's hidden. I mean, from the beginning of the foundations of the earth, from Adam until now, the knowledge of just how the earth operates, and of course the knowledge of the Most High. But there's got to be way more, But of course, we have a lot of that knowledge within the scriptures itself. We have the words of the Most High, and thank the Most High for that. Man, I can't imagine that's a long time to be living. But once we get transformed and rule and reign with Messiah in His kingdom, of course, the incorruptible putting on. The corruption putting on incorruptible and stuff like that is, living up to that time to where it's going to be something else, man. Anyway, let's continue. So Enosh, Kenan lived 70 years and fathered Mahalael. After Mahalael was born Kenan, he lived another 840 years and had sons and daughters. In all, Kenan lived 910 years and he died. Mahalalel lived 65 years and then he fathered Yared or Jared. And after Yared was born, Mahalalel lived another 830 years and he had sons and daughters. And in all, Mahalalel lived 895 years and then he died. And then Jared or Yared lived 162 years and then he fathered. Still going. Yep. Okay. Checking out the live chat. Where was I? Yared lived 162 years and fathered Hanok, and then Hanok was born Yared. He lived 800 years and had more sons and daughters, and then in all, Yared lived 962 years, and he died. Hanok lived 65 years and fathered Methuselah. Methuselah. Yeah. After Methuselah was born, Hanok walked with God. So this is Enoch, actually. He walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. And all Hanok lived 365 years, and then Hanok walked with God, and then he wasn't there because God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years and fathered Lamech. And after Lamech was born, Methuselah lived 782 years and had sons and daughters. In all, Methuselah lived 969 years, then he died. Lamech lived 187 years and fathered a son, whom he had called Noach, which means restful. For he said, this one will comfort us in our labor and the hard work that we have done with our hands from the ground, that Yahovah is cursed. After Noach was born Lamech. Gotta get that in there. After Noach was born, Lamech lived 595 years. He had sons and daughters. And in all, Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. Then Noah was 500 years old, and Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Chapter 6. In time, when man began to multiply on the earth, and the daughters were born to them, these sons, the Benai Elohim, sons of God, saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took wives for themselves whomever they chose. There's a lot of controversy over this, of course. Some people say that the sons of God refer to the sons of um, Seth that were righteous people. But everywhere in the scriptures where it refers to Benai Elohim, like it does in this, if you go back to the Hebrew, the sons of God, Benai Elohim, it's referring to the messengers of the Most High. My opinion, yes, these are the fallen messengers that left their first estate, came down, mingled with the daughters of men, messed up a lot of stuff. Now, is it all their fault? No. Mankind did it to themselves. I mean, of course, if you read Enoch, all the stuff that they taught them, very evil stuff, or dysfunctional stuff, and stuff that they wasn't supposed to know, and they just grew wicked, more wicked, more wicked, more wicked, to where it was evil continually. And then the Most High had to look down and say he was sorry that he created man, because their thoughts were evil continually. I mean, no breaking point. Evil every day. Every day evil. Everywhere you look around, you're in evil. You know, that's crazy to think about. So Yehovah said, my spirit should not in human beings forever, for they too are flesh, therefore their lifespan is to be 120 times in the Hebrew, translated as 120 years, or it could be 120 times, which ends up to be 6,000 plus years, which is about right, since the creation and almost up until now, edging towards 6,000 or a little over 6,000, or getting close to 6,000 years. Which of course, evolution will tell you millions and billions of years ago, when we had the Big Bang, and everything went there, and a fish frog came crawling out of the cesspool of sponge stuff, and that fish frog grew legs and started walking on the earth, and from that fish frog is a monkey, and then from that monkey came you. Yeah, so bunch of nonsense. Bunch of ridiculous nonsense. Anyway, it's easier to believe in a great creator than a fish frog turning into a monkey and then turning into you, buddy. So anyway, so he said the lifespan should be 120 years or 120 times. And the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. And then afterwards, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bore them children. These were the ancient heroes, men of renown. So all these ancient tales, like in the Greek and stuff like that, Heracles and all that. Some of that had some truth to it. These were giants with superhuman strength. My opinion, of course. Then Yehovah saw that the people of the earth were very wicked, that all their imaginings of their hearts were always of evil only. Wow. And then Yehovah regretted that he had made humankind on the earth, and it grieved his heart. And then Yehovah said, I will wipe out humankind from whom I've created, from all of the earth, and not only human beings, but everything, animal, creeping, the birds in the air, for I regret that I ever made them. But Noah found grace in the sight of the Most High. So a lot of people say, oh, it's just it could have been like a localized flood, type deal. But it's like, nah. He said it all over the whole earth as a whole, the whole earth, not just locally where people stayed. The whole earth covered, water covered, whole earth. Okay, everything covered with water. Got it? And not just mankind, but also the animals. So why would this, well, if you read Enoch, they were actually doing experiments on the animals and creating all these crazy hybrid animals. And that's possibly where you get the T-Rex, this carnivorous, crazy thing with short arms like this, can't really do anything. But it's got a gigantic head and massive bone-crushing teeth, and these short little front arms. That's something like they would create, I guess. Very crazy to think about. Um, but yeah, they had corrupted the animals, trying to do whatever cross speciations, and you know, I mean, it's kind of weird to think of, because it kind of sounds like science fiction, but I mean, we're talking about interdimensional beings here coming down, these messengers, and mating with male and mating with the females within the daughters of men, and teaching them all kind of stuff, um, like abortion. They taught them how to strike the woman in strike the child in the womb so that the child would die in the womb. So Planned Parenthood, there you go. Planned Parenthood was started by the messenger, or these people back in Noah's time. But anyway, so there you go. There is the Torah portion for this week. It's Bereshit in the beginning. God created everything, created us. It's amazing today, that within the schools and within colleges and just general the general theme is evolution, and that's been pushed and preached to people for many years now, and a lot of people that are strong in the faith, of course, shun it. If they're trying to get an education in these re-education camps, like public school systems or colleges and stuff like that, where now it's a bunch of liberal bullcrap. Pardon my French. That they're teaching these kids, especially evolution. That's like, no, there's no creator, God. You were a fish, frog, monkey. You crawled out of the cesspool, and there you are. It's like, nah, bruh. Nah, ain't no fish, frog. Nah. So it's I like this Torah portion. I like when it goes back to the beginning and we start over again, and start reading from the beginning and really get into the word and to the meat of everything. But of course, a lot of people are like, but you got to go back and then you go through all the genealogies, and the Old Testament is boring, blah blah blah. And it's like, the Old Testament is the word of God. That's all. When Messiah Yeshua was around, that's all he had to read from. Of course, he was the word, but that's all they had. Paul, Shaul, that's all these people had. Excuse me. That's all they had to glean from was the Old Testament, or what we consider the Old Testament, or the Torah, and then the Psalms, and then the prophets, which is a combination of the what we call the Old Testament. But it's actually the whole Word of God. And in order to understand the New Testament in that time frame when Messiah arrives, you have to understand the Old Testament very well, because he speaks of the Old Testament. All of the disciples glean back to the Old Testament when they are writing and speaking. They are pulling everything from the Old Testament. So when you start a book, you can't just start a book 3/4 of the way. You're not gonna. It's like, okay, I don't understand this because I didn't read the front of the book, page 1, to figure out what the narrative is. It's the same thing we're reading the Bible. You don't start in John. You don't start in Matthew. You got to start at the beginning, Bereshit, and then go through. And I know why they do that for, like, new believers. They don't want to bore them to tears by reading the Old Testament with all these and thous and genealogies and stuff like that. But you have to get a firm grasp of the beginning. That is the foundation, the foothold. If you don't do that, then there's going to be a lot of misinterpretations if you just start in the New Testament. It's just like starting in the book 3/4 of the way. You're not going to get the full narrative. You're not going to know what's going on. And then you're going to make up your own interpretations as you go. So, and that's always been, for new believers, it's like, crack open that book at Genesis, at Bereshit. That's where you start. And then work your way through it. Then get into the New Testament. Then once you get into the New Testament, be like, oh, wait, I read that. Messiah said this, but I heard this in Psalms. David was talking about it, or Moses was talking about this back in Deuteronomy, and he said it, and then you understand. So, but that's just my rant. Thank you. That's just my rant. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think. Leave me some messages. I'm glad we got to spend this time together going over the Torah portion for today. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you, and may he lift you up, your countenance up upon, may he lift his countenance upon you and give you shalom, peace, Shabbat shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Peace out.